Welcome to the Home Building Hub, your essential podcast guide to building your new home. Hosted by industry experts Colin Bischoff and Darren Brennan, this conversational podcast will help better educate you about all things new home building so you can avoid costly mistakes and enjoy your building experience to the fullest, no matter which home builder you choose.
Hey there, folks, and welcome to the Home Building Hub. It's Colin here with co-host Darren, as always. And today we're going to talk about a topic that did come from one of the suggestions a while back. And we're going to talk about rural lots and/or, I guess, often referred to, Darren, as acreage lots. Now, just explain a little bit of the information regarding what they are and how it works for anyone that is looking for those type of lots out there. Now, Darren does work in, cover a regional area, regional zone, Daz, don't you? So I'll be more prompting the questions today because it's definitely more in your wheelhouse than mine. But I think there's going to be some great insights for people who are looking for the blocks out there that are not the standard, developer, smaller blocks out in suburbia but more so out there in rural Victoria in this case, or perhaps it'll be relatable to rural across the nation. So firstly, as always, mate, how are you going? Are you feeling all good?
Fantastic, mate. Yeah, looking forward to this episode. It's something I do deal a lot in. A lot of my staff sell rural lots. In fact, just yesterday, I was talking to two different customers on two different rural lots and really in-depth discussions about those and the, I guess some of those unknowns. It's not like dealing on a traditional lot. And so just, plenty of extra questions, I guess, and hopefully today's episode will really help there. One thing I did during the week, Cole, is it's the first time I've done is I actually Googled, builder podcasts, and I did notice that we came up as the number one podcast on Google search, which was fantastic. But what I did want to say, linking to that, is thanks to all those people who have given us a 5-star review. If you haven't yet, it does take, honestly, seconds. It's like click the button, click the button, click the button. You give it a 5-star review. Obviously, only if you're enjoying the podcast, but we hope that you are, and we'd really appreciate that. That's our fee. We don't make any money out of doing the podcast. We just want to add value to more and more people out there looking to build, and it is a time of late where people are searching more. So hopefully, the information we're providing is really valuable to them. But yeah, please give us a 5-star review, and anyone who has already, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And mate, let's rip in.
Yeah. That's good. I hadn't actually Googled that before, so fair enough. Good to see you at the top
of the list.
Yeah.
I was surprised, actually. I didn't think we were going to be, so I was really grateful that was the case. So thank you.
What did you Google? What did you write
I can't remember exactly it, but it was, home building podcasts or new home construction podcasts.
Right.
And yeah, we came up number one. So that was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, great. All right, well, let's kick off. So first things first, I think, is let's establish one thing. What is a rural and/or acreage lot?
Sure. So I'm going to read this one, so pardon me looking so much at the screen, but a rural or acreage lot typically refers to a sizable parcel of land located outside an urban zone, often characterised by its spacious natural surroundings, potential for agricultural and recreational use. These lots are commonly found in countryside settings, offering tranquility, privacy, ample space for various outdoor activities such as gardening, farming, or enjoying nature. They sound pretty bloody good, Cole. It sounds like a place I think we'd both like to live. And I feel like I live a little bit of that. I live on 1,000 square metres, so I'm not on acreage, but that little bit of extra land living in a rural area in Ballarat is fantastic. It's something I really appreciate. So, and as I say, I get onto a lot of these lots and, you see some of the land, you're like, wow, how cool would it be to live there? You could ride a motorbike around the backyard, or we've had friends put football goals in their backyard for their kids. I don't have a roof for that. So it is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I think by now people understand if they go to a land agent and buy a normal block in a suburban area, greenfield area we call it, what that sort of entails. But if someone's looking at a regional rural lot, what are some of the things that probably they need to consider?
Yeah, I guess number one, Cole, is there's different types of these regional lots, these acreage lots, and what I mean by that is sometimes you are literally buying a paddock. So there may well be a road out the front, and often there is, but access is going to be, to this lot can be really limited. Um, Things like connections are not always there, or if they are, they're a long way from where the house is going to be. So things like power, water, gas, stormwater, sewer, sometimes they don't even exist. Often, yes, you might get power, but you may not get any of the others. Sometimes you get none of those things at all. So you now have to work at how you're going to build this home. Other things to consider would be fall on the lot. Trees, often the blocks are covered in trees. So again, what does that mean? um, Bushfire management overlays. So often there'll be set overlays that say that you need to do certain things because you're going to live in a dangerous spot if there's a fire. And I mean, this last week there's been fires around Ballarat, and it's scary stuff. Like they've had people living in shelters and stuff. Um, the bushfire attack level or the BAL ratings can vary, and they can get up to, basically you're living in a cinder box sort of levels, which you just don't experience in greenfield areas generally. There can be planning overlays for things such as a whole range of those. In fact, we cover them further on. But they're things to remember. There may be a need to remove existing dwellings on the property. So we're dealing with a customer at the moment who's got their own house already there, but it's old and somewhat dilapidated. So they want to get rid of that. But, that's now a rural and a knockdown rebuild because they're going to build on the same site. Are there sheds and other buildings on the site? So all of these things need to be considered because they will have implications potentially on the build. So, they should be the sort of things you're looking for, but you should also be talking to your sales consultant at the builder about those things and highlighting those because it's important to get that stuff so you don't get surprises later. If there's things you're aware of, hey, I've got a whopping big shed on here, here's what it is, but that could be an advantage because the power could be there, for example. So yeah, all those things come into play.
Yeah. Okay. Um, I guess a little off. The next question set for me to ask, but just before I do that, how do people go about finding out this information about their block? Like, what's their? I know I've got like down below a few more questions, Daz, but okay, someone's like, well, how do I know what my connections are, etc. Like, is there a simple way for them to look that information up, or what do you advise?
If you're buying the block, so often that information may well be in the Section 32, right? And so in the land contract. So certainly that'd be the first port of call is to go through the land contract. Um, Outside of that, it's talking to the council. It's going to the site. Like if you're standing out the front and you can see power lines, well, there's power there. It may not mean there's a power pit. It may mean you still need to do more work, but there's power there. So visiting the site, certainly you'll know pretty quickly if the whole joint's covered in trees. You've got to deal with trees, right? So
Yeah.
it's physically being on the site, so going and looking at it. If it's being cut up, so some of these lots are, I'm going to call it lifestyle lots, right? There's a state just up the road from where I live that's got all those blocks. Talk to the land developer. He's selling them. He'll tell you everything that's there. We were looking at one yesterday. It's got everything except for sewer. So those people are going to have to put a septic tank in. All other
Yeah.
services are clearly noted that they're included. So you already know what you're getting. So it's just a matter of there's a bit of a process of elimination. But again, talk to your sales consultant because they'll help guide you through that. If they're not sure themselves, they can talk to the council for you. They can talk to their office and find out if there's, they might have built on the neighbouring block. So often there's enough information out there that you don't have to go crazy on all that. We can certainly help you through that journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, sometimes in these circumstances, depending on where the block is, because it's still acreage, but it could be acreage abutting a green field. I even had an engineering plan on one yesterday. It was fantastic. So you can get a lot of information. An engineering plan is basically like a house plan for how they're going to build the block. Most of the information was there. We go and visit the site. We probably got 90% of what we need to know. We search on places like VicPlan, and we get a property report that gives us further information, and away we go. So just building up that case to what it all is, I guess.
Yeah, it seems like there's obviously different levels of rural and acreage. So I remember a little portion of my time I spent in Queensland, and there was an estate there that was specifically for acreage lots, or what we call them ranch style homes. Like they were designed for those wider frontage homes. They weren't massive, they weren't huge acreage or anything, but they, like you said, they were developed by a developer. They had the plans, they had engineering, so everything was connected. It had power, all that sort of stuff. You could find rural or acreage blocks in that category. That would make life much easier for you, the client, obviously. But it's probably more targeting this discussion to those who are looking at something that's really decent in size, and probably has a few more of those boxes to tick up front. And we're trying to give you a little bit of an insight into what they are. That's all. Yeah.
It's more likely, Cole, if you're looking at a half-acre lot, that it's been chopped off another lot, and therefore, in doing so, they've had to do some more work to deliver some of those services.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about 600 acres, significantly different. So you're talking about a farm, like a paddock, or several paddocks. That's a whole different conversation. So
Yeah.
it's just a matter of understanding what you're dealing with, and then asking questions accordingly, and reaching
Mm.
out to experts that can help you. So, the information is available. It's just a matter of asking enough questions of the right people to be able to gather all that information.
It's all about the consultation in that sense, it sounds like to me. So the first question I'll be asked, well, what builders will build on this block and in this area? And then secondary, once you've got two or three of those, then you best go and visit them. And ideally, in this situation, like you said, they should be coming out to your site and doing a site assessment, and outlining, here are the things you do have, here are the things you don't have, which sort of leads to the next question, Darren, is like, what, outside of the connections and the power and the stuff that you just listed, are there any other things that I guess a builder won't do, and therefore an owner is essentially responsible for?
Yep. I guess a couple of the key ones would be, you've got to provide all weather access onto the site. So again, if you're talking about half an acre, you might only be talking about 10-meter driveway, 20-meter driveway, whatever. If you're on 600 acres, you might be 150 meters from the road. You've got to be able to provide the builder all weather access to that site. So you may have to go and drop a gravel driveway in that provides that access. Now, it may already be there too. You might already have a driveway onto the site. Great. But if you don't, that's something to be considering. I guess clearing trees and debris from the build area, the builder doesn't usually look after that. So they'll want you to clear those trees. Again, when you're clearing trees and they're going to build a house on there, you've got to be mindful of the fact that that's going to have significant impact on the slab design that the engineers will recommend. So there's, cause and effect, I guess.
And that's
The other
because of
one
the
would be,
tree root system, right? So all the roots flying around underneath, yeah, can impact. Yeah.
absolutely. Um, The other one would be electricity, and again, sometimes you got to weigh up the cost of, am I better going to solar, off the grid power, batteries, or am I better off going and drag and power half a kilometre down the road to get it onto my site? So these are some of those conversations, and then you'd have to go and do your research from that point. And often the builders aren't going to cover that research for you. They're not going to do that. They'll say, you need to go and find out this information, maybe go talk to PowerCore, or talk to this person, or talk to this electrician that we know that does that, and they will then help you in that space. So, you again, could be water. Water could be way up the road, town water. So, do you want to drag town water down the road, or do you not? So, asking those questions, I guess, again, establishing what's available on the lot, and then working out what your options are. And some people, Cole, will, particularly in some of these rural lots, will want to go off the grid. And again, not all builders will build off the grid because it's challenging, not having water on site during construction. So they'll ask that you do. So they might want you to put a tank in and make sure it's full of water and have a pump available with a generator on it. If it's, running no electricity to the site, but running solar, likewise, again, they're going to want to have that access to that because they need power tools to run. They need access to that to be able to build a home. So all these things come into play.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other, I guess, extra considerations? You have listed, power,
Yep.
and touched on that, and water, of course. Is gas another one? I guess that needs to be considered, or
Yeah,
maybe,
maybe I'll just rip through some notes around there. So you've got to consider: is there power to the site? Also, is it single phase? Is it three phase? What do you need? Um,
yeah,
you most likely going to have to provide underground power to the site because builders don't like working with overhead power a lot. So again, cost to do so. If there's no power, we just mentioned about running off batteries, etc. Providing a generator during construction, they're all things you need to consider. Water, if there's town water available to the site, well, I've written here, we're in luck. That's a good thing, right? If you've got town water, great. But if you don't, then we're going to need a tank on site with water in it. And you may have to get that topped up throughout the construction, right? So we've got to provide running water, one, for staffing, but two, for bricking your home. We need water for that. We'll need water for cleaning. Um, we'll potentially need water when they pour the slab. All this is water needed throughout the construction. Gas, it's not often gas is connected to rural sites. Funny enough, one of the sites I was looking at yesterday had gas, and I was quite surprised. I didn't think they would. Um, Most people at that point will, if there's no gas, will choose to run bottled gas. So they go and get a big, not a 9 kilo bottle. They get like, I don't even know how many liters they are actually, or how many kilograms, but they're big bottles. They're as big as you are high, and big round bottles, and they get delivered on the back of a truck. So they might get those delivered, or they go to all electric these days. So we're seeing a lot more of that. Just people going, bugger the gas. The other part is, if you need a planning permit, you can't have gas. So be mindful of that. You can't have gas that's natural gas, but you can have bottled gas. Stormwater. So when it rains, where's the water going to go to? It's got to be able to get off the site. Often there'll be a spoon drain running down the side of a property that'll run it into the street. That'll then run it off down the street. Again, though, if you're on a farm, that's probably unlikely. So the water might run off towards a dam. So you got to work out what direction is the fall and where's that water going to go. If that water is going to run into a neighbouring property, what's the impact of that? Do you need to put in a rubble pit? Do you need to put in a dam for the water to run into? All these things need to be considered depending on the size of the block and where the block is. Again, some of these lifestyle lots, 2.5 acres or smaller, 5 acres or smaller, often have some of this stuff already considered for you, so it makes it easier. A lot of them don't. Is there connection to sewer? And this is a big cost item for a lot of people. Most people, when they're buying these lots, have a little bit of understanding, I find. So again, most of them are not connected to the sewer system. Some are, most are not. If that's the case, that you're not connected, then you will need to put a septic system in. And that's basically a tank that all of the toilet waste goes into, and then it's processed and it goes through basically a process, and then there's an overflow from that. So all of the liquid addition gets pumped out through an area of your yard that has all irrigation tubes running through it, and then that ends up being a septic. I've just lost my train of thought of the area, but it's basically an area, and again, depending on how many people are going to live in the home and how many bedrooms there are, will depend on how big that area is. So you've got to have an area that's available for that. The other thing is, pardon my language, but shit doesn't run uphill. So you can't put the septic system up the hill. It's got to be downhill. The water's got to be able to run downhill. So, you really got to make consideration around that. Consult with a septic plumber, and they'll guide you there. The builder will often take care of that. But again, not all builders will. So have those conversations. Last one would be telephone and NBN. Again, you may well have access to those. They might be out in the street, but if not, you might have to go to satellite. And that's become a really good option these days as well. So there's a fair bit to consider, Cole. Yeah.
yeah, nice. No, well played. I guess one of the other ones is more notable is around the bushfire attack level, and I guess bushfire management overlays. So I guess to help start that question, explain to people, we can look up some information on your block in a greenfield or in a rural area on a site called Vic Plan, and it pretty much tells us, like, if it's a normal everyday block in a greenfield area, it's probably going to be, if it's in a bushfire zone, it's considered what they call BAL 12.5. And basically, it might be 4, 5, or 6 grand, depending on the builder, to put some things on your house that are required to comply with a bushfire zone area. Now, when you're talking rural, 12.5, that's not going to work. It goes up higher, doesn't it, Daz? So there's more requirements and things like that. So talk about what, I guess, the bushfire attack level may be in rural, and also can you maybe talk a little bit about the bushfire management overlays and what they are, what they mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the lower the rating really means the less chance is actually going to be a fire as such come through your place, but more likely ember attack. So, and it's been interesting. Again, I live in the country and there's been fires 50 kilometres away and it's been dropping stuff on our house, right? We've had a lot of ember drop on our house. Now, I've not seen any live ember, but there's been plenty of leaf sort of type material floating through the sky and landing. So you get up in the morning after there's been a fire up the road, and there's a lot of black stuff sitting on your car. So it's interesting watching that. But I would say where I am, and I didn't have to. I bought established back when I bought my house, but I would say this place would need to be in a BAL 12.5 area. Over the road's vacant land, but it's not trees, it's not forest or anything, so it's less likely to be a high level BAL. But as you get closer to treed areas, areas that are prone to fire, then those levels lift. So you go from 12.5 to 19 to 29 to 40, and then to FZ, which is basically a full fire zone. They're expecting that at some point you're probably going to have to fight a fire around your home. And the builders will then have to do certain things to be able to build a home there. There's certain building requirements. So the higher the number, the more likely you're going to face a fire at some point, is what the government believe and the authorities believe. And therefore your home has to be built accordingly. So it could be things like you have to have a metal roof. Could be things like you need to provide sprinklers on your roof if you're getting to the highest levels, access to water, petrol generator, run a pump off the roof to spray water over your roof. Like, we're talking about stuff that gets pretty serious. You may not be able to have exposed timber at all on the exterior of your home. You may have to have different window types. So all these things can add to the cost of building, but also some builders won't build to the higher levels. So you're going to maybe have to consult a specialty builder in that, whether it's a custom builder or a builder that deals in that space. It could mean that you need to build a metal frame home. And again, that's going to give you limited choices. So that's part of the bushfire attack level. Separate to that is a bushfire management overlay. Most of these overlays, it should be specified in your land contract. It should be specified on your plan of subdivision. But you can also go to the website we mentioned earlier, Vic Plan, and put in your address, and it will tell you what overlays they are. And when you open that up, those overlays will then specify exactly what you need to do in your location. So example would be, you need to have a water tank that has access to a certain amount of water. Let's call it 5,000 litres of water, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually not a lot of water at all. So you've got access to 5,000 litres that's accessible if the fire brigade need to come along and access that water. They'll have a connection available for them that they can draw on that water. And every home in the area has that. So you've got 5,000 litres, your neighbour's got 5,000 litres, the guy down the road's got 5,000 litres, and it just gives them an ability to have more water, because they can only cart a certain amount of water to any location too, right? So it's just giving them access to more water. And again, there may be some other things that specifies about your home. So, it's certainly something you need to be aware of. And it may say you need to have a clearing between the home and any trees of a certain distance. Might be 10 metres or 20 metres. So these things would all be specified very clearly in your bushfire management overlay. And that information is readily available. And again, sometimes some builders won't actually provide that information. Like, they won't build that home. There'll be certain stuff there that some builders say, we don't have access to the product to even be able to do that. It's beyond our scope of work. So it's worth being understanding of what that's like.
Yeah. Very nice. The conclusion to all this, I think it's some great insights. Thanks for sharing that, Daz. So anyone looking for those sort of blocks now have a bit of a checklist they can go with. And I guess it all starts with what we have said through the episode, is that if you've got one of those blocks already, or you're looking at one of those blocks, then by all means, go and visit a few builders, jump on websites, whatever you need to do. Find yourself one or two or three that tell you, yep, we will build in that area, but then find out if they will build on that block. That's really your best point. And they will go through all the things that Darren's mentioned. And that will, I guess, give you some comfort about whether to proceed with that block or whether to proceed with that builder if you own the block. And yeah, so anything else to sort of help, Daz, to finish it off?
The other one is certainly not all builders build in all areas. So, don't waste your time getting pricing, doing all this. If you've got a block that's outside of even just the township that builder's in, and we might only be talking 10 kilometres out, just ask, hey, look, my block's in this location. Do you build there? Because it'll narrow it down pretty quick, because no point wasting all your time doing that. So that'd be number one. Number two, you want to meet them on site so you can talk through some of those issues, and it'll really enlighten you. So if you've got a preferred builder you want to talk through that with, you've sort of narrowed the list down, meet them on your site if you can. And it's really going to help. If you can't meet them on your site, but they can get to your site, you might be in the city and they're already in the country, get them to go out and have a look. I know for me, I'd always, if it's looking a little bit more tricky, I'd want to bring one of our construction team along to identify any issues from a construction point of view. So I'd talk to our construction manager, he'd come and meet us on the site, and that can be really valuable as well. So they're probably some of the key things that you could be doing that really make it nice and easy for you.
It's essential, I would have thought, a site assessment,
Absolutely.
for those. So yeah, awesome. Well, thanks, Daz. Appreciate your insights on that one, and for all the listeners, the viewers as well. Thanks again for I guess listening and watching. We do appreciate you taking the time. Hopefully, you got some value out of this. It's obviously targeted to a specific type of buyer within new home construction. So hopefully, it's helped you a little bit. Please jump on, leave us a 5-star review. If you've got any questions about anything else, homebuildinghub.com.au, contact us. You can go there and that'll come through with an email to myself and Darren. Other than that, please, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the podcast, guys. And just our disclaimer, whilst we're all about providing value to you, this podcast should not be considered as legal or financial advice. It contains general information only, and you should seek out independent professional advice on your personal situation before making any legal or financial decisions.
1, 2, 3.